Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing, will my ex miss or forget me? The dumper mindset. I provide audio coaching to help people try and get their ex back or get a new girlfriend or boyfriend. Check out my website for more details. www.dateme.tips. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing, will my ex miss or forget me? The dumper mindset. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, it's likely that you will wonder if your ex might miss you or forget you. In today's podcast, I'm going to discuss 3 points to consider regarding the dumper mindset and their future thoughts of their dumpee. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is life story. So you will always be part of your ex's life story, and they will always be part of your life story. And hence, it is impossible for your ex, whether they are a dumper or a dumpee, to ever fully forget you. Okay, we have to understand that because you're part of each other's life story, they will always be reminded of you by certain triggers and vice versa. Okay, you will always pop into each other's thoughts every so often due to triggers. Now, as time moves forward, it is possible that you will think of each other less. You know, I always say when it's been more than a year, at that stage, the triggers have less power, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. You know, I know people who have heard from their exes many years into the future. So although the likelihood of you getting your ex back does slightly start to decrease after a year, and the further it goes into the future, it decreases further, we can't say for certain that there is a cut-off point of where your ex will ever forget you in that way. So as we progress through today's podcast, I'm going to be discussing about how people may try and forget you, and also about how your ex may miss you. Because although we're speaking about the life story and we're saying they can never truly fully forget you, this doesn't mean necessarily that they will be missing you in a way in which they want to reach out and potentially reconnect. Now, I'll be discussing this later on in today's podcast, so please keep listening. But for now, we do need to just concentrate on the concept of a life story, because sometimes people think, well, if my ex doesn't hear from me, then of course they will eventually forget me. But I like to use an analogy where I speak of your school days. So think back to when you were at school and tell me, can you remember somebody when you was at primary school or elementary school, when you was very young, 5, 6, 7 years old? Can you remember people from back then that you haven't seen since your school days? Because if you can, and I'm pretty sure you will, if you think back, I'm convinced you will remember somebody from your elementary school days, your primary school days, that you haven't seen since school. And that would likely be many decades ago now, okay? 15, 25, 35, 45 years ago, depending how old you are listening to this podcast. This could have been a long time since you last attended school when you was 5, 6, 7 years old. And if you can remember somebody from that time that you haven't seen since, there is proof of concept that somebody who is part of your life story, in this instance your school experience, will always remain in your mind when there are triggers. And I'm giving you a trigger right now to think of this possible person. Now, let's also consider the fact that you were not in a romantic relationship with this person, okay? And romantic relationships are the most powerful connections that we can have as adults. So not only can you remember somebody from decades ago, not only are they somebody you haven't spoke to in a very, very long time, but you weren't romantically involved. So now we're asking the question, will your ex, somebody who you've seen a lot more recently than this school friend, somebody who you was romantically involved with, somebody who you may have lived with, you may have been married to, you may have had children with, are they likely to forget you? are very likely to not remember who you are, very likely to never think of you. Okay, when you consider this against what we've just done, when we consider your school days, you will see that your life story will always be part of their life story and vice versa. And when you're part of each other's life story, you will always have a connection, a special connection that means you will easily be interchangeable within thoughts of each other's minds. So, okay, they might not be thinking of you 24/7, but you can pop into their mind interchanging with thoughts of different triggers and memories. So that's why it's always important to remember when we ask the question, will my ex miss or forget me? Always remember that you are part of each other's life story. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast about will my ex miss or forget me, the dumper mindset. And point number 2 is forget you. Okay, so we've already said that your ex will never completely, truly forget who you are. But if you've destroyed their attraction, they will try and forget about you. Now, that doesn't mean they will forget about you, but if you have diminished their romantic emotional attraction that they feel towards you, they will do everything they can to not think about you. Now, that's not going to be 100% effective, as we've just suggested, but it can be something which always enables them to remember that they don't want to reconnect with you. So, how can this be? How can they be as close to forgetting you as possible? And that is when you have completely destroyed romantic emotional attraction. So when two people are in a loving relationship, they're both feeling a high level of romantic emotional attraction for one another. Now, for various potential reasons, this level of attraction can unfortunately drop. And when it hits the necessary low point, this is when somebody will end a relationship. They will become a dumper. But for most dumpers at this time, they have not lost all romantic emotional attraction. There will often be a sizable amount left. You know, people might end a relationship when they've still got, say, 30-40% attraction, but it's just under halfway. That could be their necessary low point. However, some people will be ending a relationship where it is much lower. Every situation is different, and it does depend if and when and why the ex ended the relationship. Why did the dumper end that connection? What was the straw that broke the camel's back? Why did this relationship end? Well, if we consider things such as cheating, that can be a big shock to the system, which suddenly makes somebody lose a lot of romantic emotional attraction. However, if this is something which has been long-winded, if this is something where you're going on different paths, different journeys, different mindsets, sometimes that can be even more challenging to get an ex back because that level of romantic emotional attraction is dropping slowly but surely due to you going on your own path, your own journey. Whereas somebody who cheated, everything else may have seemed fine, but the cheating was a big shock to the system and a lot of attraction was lost suddenly. As you can see, this is all different. But at some point, at some stage, the relationship has ended, the attraction is low. But how low is the question? And more importantly, what happens during the aftermath? So when I speak about the aftermath, what we're talking about here is after the breakup has been taken place, after the breakup was actioned, what happened? So your ex, the dumper, has a low level of attraction. That's why they end the relationship. But how you behave now as a dumpee will dictate whether this attraction stagnates where it is, whether it begins to grow once more, or alternatively, if it lowers further. And this is where we get to point number 2 about forgetting you. They will never truly, completely forget who you are. But if you diminish this attraction further, they will try to forget about you. So it's already low, but what do you need to avoid to make things even worse? Well, this is things such as begging, pleading, chasing, trying to reason with somebody for an excessive period of time. Now, it's very natural at the time of a breakup to get your point of view across. Of course it is. And in the immediate aftermath, it's very understandable, and it often happens where people don't behave with the most stable mindset. But when we consider the days, weeks, months, and years after this, the further after the breakup we're looking, if you're behaving in this way time and time again, you're increasing the chance of this remaining attraction being diminished. So you need to stop this now. If you're somebody who's chasing your ex, please realise the likelihood of you getting your ex back at this time during this idea that you've got of trying to persuade them, beg them, plead them, reason with them, these types of things are unlikely to work. And all you are doing is slowly but surely diminishing their intrigue and attraction for you further. Somebody can only miss someone if they're no longer in their life. And if you were always chasing your ex, you're never giving them a chance to miss you. You're just frustrating somebody who has already said to you they don't want to spend time with you in this way anymore. So why do you think that frustrating them and annoying them is going to help your cause? Unfortunately, it's going to increase the chance of them forgetting you as much as they can. Now, you can always start to improve. You can always stop this negative behaviour. You can always try and regrow attraction. But if it's gone too low, if it's too diminished, then unfortunately you might be one of some of the people out there who don't hear from their ex again. And unfortunately that does happen. There is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back, but what you must do is increase your chance of success rather than diminish and reduce your chance of success. And what we're going to be speaking about next in point number 3 is how you can increase the chance of your ex missing you and therefore giving you the best possible chance of one day hearing from your ex again and hopefully for you reconnecting with a stronger foundation in place and a better, longer relationship ahead of you. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about will my ex miss or forget me, the dumper mindset. And point number 3 is miss you. So as I just said, we're going to be ending today's podcast on the point, on a positive, of how you can increase the chance of your ex missing you. We have already said that because of your life story connecting you and your ex, they will never truly forget you. But if you behave in a negative way in the aftermath of a relationship, in the aftermath of a breakup, then you will unfortunately create a situation where your ex, the dumper, loses even more attraction. And that is where they will try their hardest to put you to the back of their mind. What we need to do is to get to the front of their mind. And it doesn't work in the way you might think. You might think, look, to get to the front of their mind, I've got to be texting my ex, calling my ex, knocking on their door. No, you don't. As we've already said, that is unlikely to work. That's to increase the chance of annoying your ex and making them move further away from you. So, I suggest that you implement my version of the no contact rule. There's many different versions of the no contact rule that you can find online, but I believe that my version will give you the best possible chance of success. I'm going to put a link at the end of today's podcast where you can click, if you're watching this on YouTube, click the link and it will take you to my playlist entitled The No Contact Rule, which will allow you to immerse yourself in my version of a rule by listening to all of the podcasts all the way through on that playlist. I'm not going to really delve into it right now, but suffice to say, my version of a no contact rule will enable you to give yourself the best possible chance of success, because not only will you be creating the space so that your ex can actually potentially miss you, but you'll be going through the self-improvement, you'll become the version 2.0, you'll be growing your attraction net, and you'll be going through breakup recovery. People don't realise to get your ex back, you need to recover from a breakup first. You can't get your ex back if you're completely unstable in your mindset. You need to be stable, confident, and positive. And my version of the rule will help you do that. In essence, a very basic principle of my version of a rule is to never contact your ex again unless they contact you first if you are the dumpee and they are the dumper. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, and if you are the dumper listening to this, the rule is different for you as well. But if you're a dumpee, the basic principle, the first thing to really look at is you must always move forward with a positive mindset, improving every day, and never contacting your ex again unless they contact you first. That is the basics, okay? You can really delve into everything I'm speaking about by looking at my playlist entitled The No Contact Rule that I'm linking at the end of today's YouTube video. You'll see the link to click so you can immerse yourself, see the exceptions to the rule and the intricacies, because me explaining this in 10 seconds really isn't going to give you everything you need to know. The important thing to take with you here is that for your ex to miss you, they need to see a situation where they want to talk to you again. Okay, so think of it that way. You need your ex to want to interact with you again. How can you do this? Well, let me put it this way. It means you've got to work on yourself. Working on yourself is actually working on reconnecting with your ex. Working on yourself is actually working on the chance of you meeting somebody even better. And hence it's win-win. You know, you'll either get your ex back or you'll find somebody even better if you do enough of the right things and avoid doing too many of the wrong things. We're all human. We all make mistakes. Nobody is going to go through this as perfect as could be. But you need to make sure you do most of the right things most of the time to give yourself that chance. If your ex misses you, they will reach out to you. And if they reach out to you, you can get your ex back. If you navigate the communication stage effectively, arrange to meet up and go from there. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.
Yeah, if you miss your ex, we can help with that. Help you get him back, or we can help find you someone else. Yeah, Vincent, the relationship coach, giving you some insight, bringing you a new approach. DateMe.tips, go and check the site, giving you advice, helping with your love life. Get your ex back, or move to the next. Ain't no sweat, you know Vincent got you. Finding love ain't no problem. Yeah, DateMe.tips, check it out now.